If you're interested in history, this video is for you. Mainly religious history, Jewish faith, Christian faith. I usually try to make videos along that line in terms of context and content. So if you're interested in history, you would like this video. It's about the Khazars. If you have not heard about the Khazars, then continue watching this video and you'll get some history on Khazars and Ashkenazim Jews. So guys, please free to leave a comment. Just leave a comment and subscribe, like, share with your friends, and any suggestions that you have, also free to leave your suggestions as well. All right, hope you enjoyed this video, and we're just gonna get right into it right now. So we're going to look at a group of people in Eastern Europe. We're going to look at a group of people called the Khazars and how they are linked to the Jewish religion, how they are linked to Ashkenazim Jews, which are the largest population of the Jewish faith in contemporary times. So there's a book that was written by a guy by the name of Arthur Koestler. His name is right here. These are my notes. Let's see. The guy name is Arthur Koestler. So he wrote the book. The book is called The 13th Tribe. And he's giving evidence and history of the Khazars and where they came from and where they lived and who they are. So let's start out. Let's look at the book. I'm going to look at page 3 of this book. It says, probably AD 740, the king, his court, and the military ruling class embraced the Jewish faith, and Judaism became the state religion of the Khazars. So here we're seeing the beginning of the Khazars, as a Jewish nation here in 740 AD. Who are the Khazars? We're going to look into that as we read further down, and where the history of the Khazars, where they're coming from, and where they live. No doubt their contemporaries were as astonished by this decision as modern scholars were when they came across the evidence in Arab, Byzantine, Russian, and Hebrew sources. So where do they came with this evidence, this historical evidence of the Khazars accepting Judaism of the state religion? It says here that is mentioned in the Arab, Byzantine, Russian, and Hebrew sources. So that's where the information is coming from. Our investigation, he goes on to say, our investigations cannot go into problems pertaining to the history of ideas. So not the history of ideas, but we must call the reader's attention to the matter of the Khazar kingdom's state religion. So here we're not going into the history of ideas, but we're just going to focus on the Khazar kingdom's state religion, which is Judaism. It was the Jewish faith which became the official religion of the ruling strata of society. Needless to say, the acceptance of the Jewish faith as a state religion of an ethnically non-Jewish people could be the subject of interesting speculations. So here he's not claiming Semitic origins for the Khazars, but they are, needless to say, they have embraced the Jewish faith, and Judaism was their state religion, when they accepted it in 740 AD. So we're going now to contemporary times and see, we're looking at Judaism today, the makeup of Judaism today, the people that makes up Judaism today, and we're going to compare it and go back and forth with the Khazars. So here it says on page 145, the Jews of our times fall into two main divisions, Sephardim and Ashkenazim. Well, we're going to focus on Ashkenazim, right? But we can just get a brief idea of how these two are compared, Sephardim and Ashkenazim. So we will say the Sephardim are descendants of the Jews who since antiquity have lived in Spain. In the 1960s, the number of Sephardim was estimated at 500,000, as 500,000 people. The Ashkenazim at the same period numbered about 11 million. So this is the reason why we're going to focus on Ashkenazim, because it makes up the largest population of the Jewish faith in contemporary times. So this is the reason why we're going to focus on that, because Ashkenazim is also linked to the Bible, to the Khazars, and to the Noah's son Japheth. So Joseph then proceeds, as the writer begins to talk about the genealogy. Joseph is the one who's writing this letter. He was one of the king of the Khazars. Joseph then proceeds to provide a genealogy of his people. Though a fierce Jewish nationalist proud of wielding the scepter of Judah, he cannot and does not claim for them Semitic descent. So as Joseph here, just mentioning, the scepter of Judah, Jewish nationalist, but at the same time, as proud as he is of his newly found faith, Judaism, he is not claiming Semitic ancestry for them. So this is history. He's just outlining what really happened, and he's just outlining the history as he knows it. And he doesn't say they are Semitic. He traces their ancestry not to Shem, but to Noah's third son, Japheth, or Japheth, or more precisely to Japheth's grandson, Togarmah. We have found in the family registers of our fathers, Joseph asserts boldly. So Joseph is continuing to outline his genealogy of his people, who are the Khazars, that Togarmah had 10 sons, and the names of their offspring are as follows. Right? So these are the names. I'm not going to read the names. But Khazars is one of the sons of Togarmah. We are the sons of Khazar, the seventh. The name Ashkenaz occurs in Genesis 10, verse 3, and 1 Chronicles 1, 6, as one of the sons of Gomer, who was a son of Japheth. So here we're looking at Ashkenaz, where Ashkenaz appears in the Bible. So I'm just going to read a little bit more, then I'll go through the Bible and clarify that. Ashkenaz is also a brother of Togarmah, whom the Khazars, according to King Joseph, claim as their ancestor. So here we're looking at the word Ashkenaz in relation to Ashkenazim Jews, which are the largest sector of the Jewish practice faith. And we're looking at Togarmah, who Joseph claimed this is where their descendants claim as their descendants, Togarmah. So here we look at the Bible now and see what it's talking about. So here let's go to Genesis 10. We're going to start at verse 2 and 3. So Genesis 10, verse 2 and 3. The sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog and Madai and Javan, Tubal and Meshech and Tiras. So we're probably focusing on Gomer. And Genesis 10, verse 3, the next verse is down, it says, and the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz and Riphath and Togarmah. So here we're seeing Ashkenaz and Togarmah in Genesis 10, verse 3, as the sons of Gomer. And Gomer is the son of Japheth, which makes Ashkenaz and Togarmah the grandchildren of Japheth. That's why it says there, Joseph was not claiming Semitic ancestry for his people, but he is claiming that they are from the lineage of Togarmah, who is a grandson of Japheth. So Togarmah, even though the word Ashkenaz, as we know Ashkenazim Jews, he's not claiming descendants from Ashkenaz, but he's claiming descendants from the brother. Needless to say, both are brothers, so they are coming from the same ancestry in either case. So that's just how it's relating to the Bible right there. But worse was to come, for Ashkenaz is also named in Jeremiah 57:21, where the prophet called his people and their allies to rise and destroy Babylon. So here we're seeing another example of Ashkenaz in the Bible. And remember, when you see Ashkenaz, just remember, talking about the largest sector of Jewish practice faith, in contemporary times, Ashkenazim. So we have to remember that when we see the word Ashkenaz, right? Where the prophet calls his people and their allies to rise and destroy Babylon. Call thee upon the kingdom of Ararat, Mene and Ashkenaz, This passage was interpreted by the famous Saigon, spiritual leader of Oriental Jewry in the 10th century, as a prophecy relating to his own times. Right? Babylon, symbolizing the Caliphate of Baghdad, and the Ashkenazim who were to attack it were either the Khazars themselves or some allied tribe. So here again we're looking at the Ashkenazim, relating to Khazars, as this 10th century Sadia Gayan. He was looking at this as a prophecy of his time, and he looking at himself as they are looking at themselves at that time as the Ashkenaz, who the Bible is calling upon to destroy Babylon, which was the Baghdad at that time, which is the caliphate, of the Muslim at that time, which means that they're probably most likely the capital of the Muslims ruling class at that time. So Khazars is linked to Ashkenaz at this point right here. According, says Polyak, some learned Khazar Jews, so we're talking about Khazar Jews, who heard of the Gayan's ingenious arguments, called themselves Ashkenazim when they immigrated to Poland. So here we're seeing a migration of the Khazars, the Jewish Khazars, calling themselves Ashkenazim, when they were living in Poland. So here we go to page 4 and page 5. These are just my notes, but if you want to read the book, you can go to page 4 and page 5. This is a reference. We have Jewish fundamentals, Jewish sect. This is another Jewish sect called Kerryites, living in Crimea, Poland, and elsewhere in Eastern Europe. A firm connection with the Khazars. They're saying they're from descendants of Khazars. And the Kerryites, if you want to look a little bit into history, they are a Jewish sect that don't believe in the Talmud, which are the rabbinical laws, but they only deal with the Torah. So where is this idea coming from that, that these Jewish people are linking themselves to the Khazars, these Eastern European Jewish people, they mention Crimea and Poland, and elsewhere. The evidence is coming from folklore, anthropology, and language. So they have history looked into the language, looked into the anthropology, which is the study of the people, sociology, and how people develop, and history of people and stuff like that. And folklore, definitely looking at the stories that have been passed down from parents to grandparents and grandchildren, great-great-grand. So these are just stories that have been told, in the area. So it said here, there seems to be a considerable amount of evidence attesting to the continued presence in Europe of descendants of the Khazars. So we're going to see, maybe what we can do is I'm going to take a look at the maps and just give an idea of where the Khazars were living. Not that map, this map is a European map, but I'll show you the territory of the Khazars at that point. Let's see, Eastern Europe. Let's see, not that one. Let's see if we can come up with a map. Where is this map? Let's see. This is the one. All right. So here we look at the Khazar. This is the Khazar kingdom. This is an older map. This is not a contemporary map of Eastern Europe, but we have two things that we can look on here, to gain some point of reference. We have the Caspian Sea right here, and we have the Black Sea. Here we have, Turkey. We have Constantinople. As you can see, it's not contemporary map will not show Constantinople. It will be Istanbul. So here we have the reference here, though, that we can look at. We're going to go to the contemporary map shortly after. We have Georgia, which remains the same, but our reference is the Caspian Sea, the Black Sea. We have the Caucasus Mountain here, but between the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea is land and territory. You can see right here. North of the Black Sea and Caspian Sea, we have the Khazars, and the influence of the Khazars beyond the Caspian Sea. We're looking at east of the Caspian Sea, but still north. We have the Volga right here, the Volga River, and we have Don River. One dumps into the Caspian Sea, another one dumps into the Black Sea. So this is the area of the Khazars, Eastern Europe. Now let's look at a contemporary map and see if we can figure out these landmarks. So here's a map of Europe now. So remember, I talked about the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea right here, and Turkey right here. So here you see it says Istanbul, not Constantinople, because this is a contemporary map. You know, we're talking about Constantinople as a Byzantine, as a, you know, the primary, let's say the nucleus of the Byzantine Empire, where the king, you know, would rule from that area, which was Constantinople. Now it's called Istanbul. So you have the Byzantine influence, which you know, was occupying Mediterranean areas along the Mediterranean, Turkey, you know, and this area here. But the Khazars was located, which we're focused on the Khazars and their area, which between the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea, we have this area here, which is Russia. As you can see, the color coded Russia in this color right here. Russia comes down here. But this was the Khazarians. This is where they were occupying. This was their territory. Right here, I could say Armenia, Georgia. We have parts of Russia, Ukraine, Romania, as I mentioned, Poland before, Belarus, Hungary, Kazakhstan, and all of these places around here, north of the Black Sea, which is north up here, north of the Caspian Sea, and in between right here. This was Khazarian territory, which is modern day Russia, Ukraine, Romania, and stuff. So these Khazarians, which took on the Jewish faith in 740 AD as a state religion, and who now are really the Ashkenazim Jews, which is the largest practicing Jewish faith at this point, which are the Ashkenazim, which are descendant of this Eastern European nations called Khazars, who are the descendants of Togarma, who is descendant of Japhet. So this is the lineage that this Ashkenazim Jews is coming from. They are coming from a lineage of Togarma, which is who is the grandson of Japhet. And it says Joseph didn't claim a Semitic. Joseph, who was a king who was given the genealogy of his people from the records that he had read, said from the registers, he said, this is what it is. They are the seventh son of Togarma, who is the brother of Ashkenaz, both of them are the sons of Gomer, Gomer is the son of Japhet. So these two kids, Ashkenaz and Togarma, or the grandchildren of Japhet. So we are looking at Ashkenazim Jews and how they are related to the lineage of Japhet. And Joseph didn't claim Semitic genealogy for them, ancestry for them, which means that he did not claim they are coming from the lineage of Shem. Though it says Joseph was a proud nationalist, he was proud of wielding the scepter of Judah, so he was a proud Jewish man, even though they have recently accepted the Jewish faith. They were very proud of Judaism, but still he did not claim Semitic origin for his people. He was going by the registers and the information that he has, and they claim they are from the ancestry of Japhet. So this is just a little history of the Khazars. If you want, you can go into some details as to what that is. Again, you can see the map. This is the area that they occupied: Russia, Ukraine, and this part of Eastern Europe. Byzantine. Obviously, the Byzantine Empire was around at that time. Most likely they had a lot of connections, and pretty sure they have done a lot of business in between the two. But if you want, you can do your studies as well. You can look up the history. And this book, written by Arthur Koestler, The 13th Tribe, also it has other information, historic information. You can go into depth in that book. So again, this is the name of the book. You can see right here is called The 13th Tribe by Arthur Koestler.